Hi, everyone. Plastic EP here from Melbourne, Australia. I've got Kathy Carlson coming in from the... where are you, Kathy?
I'm in Arizona in Camp Verde.
Fantastic. Now, let me tell the world out there, we've got two of the biggest guests you'll ever find. We've got Spencer Drate, one of the greatest designers of albums, 45s. I've also got Monte, Melnick. He's the tour manager of the Ramones. How are you, gentlemen, today?
All right, we're rock and roll, ready.
Are you feeling groovy?
We're feeling groovy.
We're feeling good. We need some shrimp on the Barbie right now.
Yeah, that's it.
Hey, bananas, we think you're groovy. Hey, bananas, we watch a movie. Yeah. Driving chewing buggies everywhere, just going crazy without a care. Hey, bananas, we think you're groovy.
And you guys are groovy, and let me tell you, when it comes to the Ramones, I've got to say, what a fascinating life you've had, Monte, being tour manager of the Ramones. And let me show this. Look at this. This is fantastic, signed by everyone. Just go through their names and tell me something about that fantastic photo.
Well, from left to right, that's Elvis Ramone, who was his Glenn Burke, actually. Then it's Richie Ramone, Dee Dee Ramone, Tommy Ramone, Marky Ramone, Joey Ramone, Johnny Ramone, and CJ Ramone. And that's me with the beer.
That's an unbelievable photo. But let me say, what was it like being on the road with these guys? I mean, I know that you knew Tommy, right? You were in a band with Tommy before, weren't you?
Yeah, well, I grew up with Tommy. I went to junior high school with Tommy. I went to high school with Tommy. I was in several bands well before the Ramones with Tommy, and then I worked with Tommy in a rehearsal recording studio where the Ramones got together.
Fantastic. And that's out there in Forest Hills, New York, yeah?
Well, we all grew up in Forest Hills, yes. Forest Hills, New York.
And when you look back and you see a picture, let's say, in rock and roll history, like now you take it all in and say, look at what the Ramones achieved, being the first punk band and rock and roll, and what they were doing was so innovative. Isn't it just amazing that when you look back, you see all this and you see where you stand, like in rock and roll history?
Well, yeah, it amazes me to see how the Ramones are so huge now. I mean, it's like Beatles, Stones, Ramones, and people talk, you know. And I wish that they were this big when I was working for them. I would have gotten a big raise.
Now, also got to say, here's your fantastic book. I want people to see it straight away. On the Road with the Ramones, as I said, by Monte Melnick and Frank Meyer. I want everyone to go out and buy that. That's all over the world on all the platforms. That is a great book.
You got to get the bonus edition, one with the red Ramones on it. That's the latest one, the most updated version.
Yeah, I want to get in here and tell about a little bit about that book. What makes the book really incredible, in the back, Monte has put all the album covers with little tidbits about them. And of course, the covers that I designed and everybody, George DeBose and everybody else. But that's a great edited part of the book, so people can see the lineup of all the in the progression, all the album covers.
Okay, Monte, that also includes 250 photographs. Is that correct?
Oh yeah,
in the book?
Photographs, images, posters, tour passes. I was very lucky with the original publisher. They let me put a lot of stuff in there, a lot of images and stuff.
Even memorabilia that you've collected, right, over the years?
Yeah, a lot of it was a lot of memorabilia that I put in. And we had a big show here, like 2016 in the Queens Museum. And I had a lot of my memorabilia in the show there. And I went to the Grammy Museum in LA also.
Oh, fantastic.
I got to say, this is a great photo here. Look at that. That obviously takes pride and place in your home. Yeah.
Keep that up for a second. Notice what Johnny's doing there. Can you see what he's doing with his finger? I'm doing the same thing. Secretly, Johnny's giving the finger to everybody.
Oh, that's the middle finger. Okay,
that's a little thing that I got to point out. So I'm doing it too in the picture there.
I'm glad you told me that, because I would have picked it up.
Oh. Monte, is that a Roberta Bailey photo, by the way?
It's a great photo by Roberta Bailey, the most famous photo of the Ramones, I think, on their first album.
Mm-hmm.
I got to say, Spencer, you got some fantastic artwork. Do you want to show us that? I can't wait. Your albums.
Yeah, I'll start off with, and by the way, these albums are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame collection with me and Judah Salovitz for anybody. And also, I did an HDTV interview series on which included these covers. I'll start off with the 1978 Road to Ruin, which Gus McDonald did the concept sketch for the front cover, and John Holmstrom did the finalized art, which is very famous. And on the back, we have a very famous Danny Fields photograph, the manager at that time. The guys are sitting on the steps. The inner sleeve had Bob Gruen photographs with Chip Rock and lyrics on the other side. I'll get into the next cover immediately, the End of the Century that I designed, 1980. This is a famous Mick Rock photograph on the front. And on the, which makes it really nice, the inner sleeve. Now you can ask, this inner sleeve has the leather jacket photo converted that I did. This shot was used on a lot of the 45s overseas. The front cover has obviously no leather jackets, and people say, why not? Well, because Sire wanted to give him more of a commercial look. So this was it, but it's a beautiful cover. The color's outrageous. Mick Rock was an amazing color photographer. The next cover I'll show you, the third of the series that I did, was the famous It's Alive live album in London. And inside are amazing photographs, you know, and then the back is, and then, of course, we have the separate D.D. King with Bob Gruen photographs, beautiful cover. When he did the hip hop, try to do a hip hop album, which Monte could talk about, you know, some of these.
Well, the Road to Ruin was John Holmstrom. He did the cover for my book.
Yes.
The great John Holmstrom Punk magazine, and I was lucky enough to have him do the cover for my book there. Yeah, and that's his version of the Road to Ruin art there. The End of the Century album, that's a funny story. Half the band hated not having leather jackets on. I think it's the only cover that the band didn't wear leather jackets on.
Right.
Photos.
You're right. Exactly right. Yeah.
Johnny hated it. Dee Dee didn't like it. Marky was okay, and Joey was all right with it. But so that's a funny thing on that one. It's Alive. That's one of the greatest live albums of the Ramones ever. I mean, it was a great show, 1977. The Rainbow Theatre in London during Christmas, over Christmas time, and great album. One of the best albums of the Ramones, I think, live albums of the Ramones.
Yeah, I agree.
That looks fantastic. Now, I've got to say, Monte, I've got to ask you a few questions now. Being on the road with the Ramones, fans are keen to know something that no one knows. For example, were you driving along in the bus and Joey would say to you, hey, stop, I want a chocolate milkshake or something? Did he sort of want things that people didn't, like he had like his favorite things he did on the road? Tell us some road stories.
No, mostly Dee Dee would say, pull over, I got to take a piss. Actually, you know, it's one time Johnny hated stopping. He didn't want to stop, you know, because we had a lot of miles to do between shows in certain spots. So I actually bought a little piss bottle for Dee Dee to like piss in the back so we wouldn't have to stop. But that ended when Dee Dee left the cover off it once and it spilled all over the van. So we stopped doing that, you know.
Can I ask, did they used to fight on the bus? Sometimes did they lose it because of the travel?
Fight on? No, they never fought with each other, basically. You know, I mean, they were smart enough to just not talk to each other, basically. You know, they didn't want to fight because they would have broken up, and they wanted to keep the band together. And just Johnny and Joey, basically. So there's no real fighting.
I'm just saying, did you have a lot of women want to come on the bus? I'm just curious.
Well, yeah, we had to fight them off of the bat, you know.
So what? You were in control of the women. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I had to screen all of them.
Okay.
Wow.
Now
I
it's
had to test them all out.
Yeah.
That could be a problem though with the diseases and stuff.
Well, Monte, you did over 2,263 live shows for 22 years.
Right.
I missed a few.
I saw those.
Probably over 2,200 shows.
Yeah.
I missed a couple there.
Hey,
But,
hey,
yeah.
Monty, I got to ask you a question. The last show in LA, tell us about that one. What was like? What happened after the show? What was the feeling of it? You know, the last show.
Well, I mean, we had a lot of celebrity guests there. Lemmy was there, and Eddie Vedder, and Chris Cornell, and people from Rancid. They all came on stage and played with the band, which is unusual because the band never had anybody come on stage. Well, very rarely have people come on stage. But so the last show was at the Palace Theater in Hollywood, and Johnny left right away. He didn't want to hang out. Then Joey hung out with Lemmy, and Dee Dee came up on stage and sang a song when he forgot the lyrics. You know. And so having Lemmy there do the song he wrote, Ramones, that was terrific. CJ always gets a kick telling the story, him playing on stage with Lemmy and doing that song. It was just a sad moment when it all ended. I mean, Johnny just got out of there right away, you know.
Right.
I got to say, did you have any problems with musical instruments? Like, did they get broken or stolen or strings disappeared? Like, have you got any stories about instruments?
Well, we've had whole vans of equipment stolen, and trucks stolen, stuff like that.
Really? Where was that, Monte?
Well, the first one was back in '78 in Chicago. We were in a van and a trailer, and they stole the whole thing.
Oh my God!
Wow.
You're lucky one of the Ramones wasn't sleeping in it.
True. We had to take a bus back to New York, and then we had a whole truck stolen in L.A. You know, that's
wow.
The road crew didn't secure it properly. We usually would put these iron bars to the wheels of the truck so they couldn't steal it. So the idiots left it off one day, and they stole the whole freaking truck. And we had a show. We had a show like a day or two later. So I had to go into like the Guitar Center and buy every little piece of equipment. You know what that's like? And it's strings, sticks, picks, drums, guitar. Luckily, they took the guitars up, so we didn't lose the guitars. Because after the initial van was stolen in Chicago, Johnny said, take all the guitars up. So he didn't want to take that chance, you know. So luckily, we had all the guitars and the basses, but I had to go into this, buy every little piece, you know, the cables, everything was insane.
Wow.
But we got the show done. Luckily, Sire Record backed us up and paid for it, so it was all right. But that was traumatic. It was traumatic having that happen.
Wow.
Now, when the Ramones took off, I just want to say, who are some of the artists that you had on some of the shows? Big artists where you got memories of meeting them and talking. I mean, we're talking a fantastic period there of like punk. You got Blondie, you got everybody coming out. It's like unbelievable, that time phase.
Well, yeah, you know, we did a big tour called Escape from New York with Blondie, the Tom Tom Club at the time, which is the Talking Heads, part of the Talking Heads. But I mean, and CBGB's basically in the early years, there's only other groups watching the other groups. There was no audience there basically in the beginning, so they got to know all the bands very well. You know, Blondie, Talking Heads, and B-50. Well, B-52s came later. But, you know, that was the atmosphere in CBGB's in the early years, right, Spence?
Yeah. And Seymour Stein, the owner of Sire, really loved the group. I mean, he was the thing about Seymour is, so everybody knows, is that Sire Records was the punk label at that time. And he signed even acts from England also. But, you know, he really stood up for everybody. And Warner Brothers didn't, right, Monte? Warner Brothers didn't understand a lot of stuff that Seymour was signing or what they were doing, but he believed in them. That was a big thing, right, Mike?
Yes. He was a big fan of Ramones and Talking Heads. He also signed Madonna and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He has a great book out, by the way, if you ever get it, Seymour Stein. You should read it. It's terrific. He was in the music business back in the 50s, so he's gone through a lot of different artists and people in the music business. Terrific musical mind, you know.
Yeah.
But he loved the Ramones, always backed them up, thank goodness, you know. Because a lot of times big record companies didn't understand what was going on, you know, with the music. Right. So to have someone like Seymour supporting the band was terrific.
Mm-hmm. And they got signed to CBGB's, right, Monte?
They're what?
Did Seymour sign them at CBGB's, the Ramones?
Well, he saw them at CBGB's, yeah. I think he also came down. We Performance Studios. This is the studio Tom and I ran, and we built the studio. It was a rehearsal and recording studio, and we had time to do our own projects. And one of the projects Tommy had was the Ramones. So they used to do showcases and bring people down, audiences, and managers and record companies. I think Seymour saw them there first.
Yeah, I think someone to talk about is Arturo Vega, which was a big influence on the marketing and image of the Ramones. Could you tell us about Arturo?
Oh my God, poor Arturo! Another one that's gone now. The four original Ramones are gone, and Arturo Vega, he was there. Arturo and I were the only people there around from the beginning of the Ramones to the end of the Ramones. Now it's just me. Right. Poor Arturo died a few years ago, but he was the lighting director. He was there from the beginning. The day one, the first rehearsals from the band. He knew Dee Dee very well, and so he came to all the rehearsals. And then he said, "I'm gonna, I'll do the lights for you guys." But the only reason he could come on the road initially was he started printing shirts and selling them. That's the only way we can get him on the road and pay for him to come on the roads. So he had a loft right by CBGB's on 62nd Street, where there was a Joey Ramone Place sign there. They put a sign in New York right there in that corner, right half a block from CB's and where Arturo lived. So he used to print the T-shirts and sell them on the road and pay for his expenses until we could afford to pay him eventually. He was a great artist, by the way. He started as an artist, and his lighting was terrific. It was really spectacular. And of course, the design, the logo was his idea.
Right, right, big time.
Amazing. I have a whole little chapter in the book about the evolution of how it was originally the Great Seal of the United States, and he took that and worked around. Yeah, there we go. So he put the baseball bat in the hand of the claw of the eagle there, and the other side, and the original was a olive branch. That's actually supposed to be an apple branch, and he put "Hey Ho, Let's Go" on top, and then around the circumference, he had the names of the four. Each four person. It was only four at a time, but I made this for 8 different Ramones over the years. So he designed that whole thing. It was amazing, and now that's one of the biggest selling shirts ever.
Right. So
that and a CBGB shirt sells like crazy. A lot of people wear the shirt. They don't even know what the Ramones are. I go up to them and say, "Hey, what's the name of Ramones?" They don't know what the Ramones are. They just like the shirt, which is okay because somebody sees that and then maybe they'll, get a Ramones song somewhere along the line.
Yeah, now they were inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is one of the great entities. Could you tell us about that induction?
Yeah, the first ballot they got right away. Unfortunately, Joey wasn't there at the time. He wasn't around, which is very sad. So. And Johnny and the estate of Joey weren't very friendly, and Johnny didn't want to. Usually at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the band goes up and plays, but Joey wasn't there. Johnny didn't want to go up and play with anybody else, so actually Green Day went up and played Ramones songs. Yeah. And Eddie Vedder inducted the Ramones into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. If you watch that, he's wearing for some strange reason he had a mohawk. I don't know why he did that.
Right.
Eddie Vedder with a mohawk. You should watch that. It's very strange. And Dee Dee made the greatest acceptance speech I ever saw in my life. He said, "I'd like to thank myself. Thank you, Dee Dee." He's thanking himself.
Right.
Speech. The greatest acceptance speech I've ever seen. And then they left Joey's award up on stage. Nobody came and took it. It was crazy.
Wow.
So Monte, where was the most favorite place or the most favorite venue that you ever performed at, the band ever performed at, that you were at?
Well, we love going to Australia.
All right.
I know I got a smile out of them. Actually, really, that was one of my favorite places to go to. Was Australia, and of course Japan. We love to play there. I mean, you're talking about over 2,260 shows. There's so many different ones that I list a few in the number in the book. So you got to buy the book to get read about a lot of them. But there's a lot of memorable shows. I mean, my God,
Our fans were crazy for you guys in Australia. I'm just going to ask you. Did you like Sydney and Melbourne a lot?
Oh, loved it. And we loved playing the big day out, right? The festival, right? I loved Australia, because it reminded me a lot of the United States, except you drove on the wrong side. That's the only thing I didn't like. But it was, you go to England, it's like old school, old building. But you go to Australia, it's like modern. It's like being in the United States. If you weren't seeing which side the people were driving, you think you were in the United States. Really clean. I love Sydney. It's a beautiful, clean city, and Melbourne and Perth and Adelaide, and of course we pet the roos and hug the koalas and all that stuff. We went to the zoo in Melbourne, by the way.
Yeah, that's near Carlton. I got to tell you, this is amazing, because not only the world love the Ramones, but for you to actually be there, as I said, as the tour manager, I mean, that's like one of the greatest honors. You're looking after the whole band. I can't look after some of my kids. I don't know how you can handle a whole band on the road. I reckon that's amazing.
It was not only a band. I had like a crazy crew, so like doubled the amount of nutty people I had to watch over. You had the crew and the band, so it's like 15 people there, juggling around. So it was pretty crazy. It's an interesting job. It's a very interesting job. I loved it. I wouldn't have done it for 20 something years if I didn't like it.
Hey, can I tell you, was the staple diet pizza? I'm just saying, what was your staple diet on the road?
Well, no, but usually we did have pizza on the rider. So, after the show, sometimes they get hungry. And so we'd make sure there was a pizza there. And the funny thing about it in the United States, we'd order Domino's because we knew what the quality of Domino's was. Otherwise, a pizza in like Sioux City, Iowa wouldn't have been, who knows what it would have been. And we know Domino's would have been all right. We had that on a ride. They didn't do a lot of it, but it's, sometimes after the show, they'd like to have a nosh. So I had to have pizza on the rider. Yeah. And Yoo-hoo. Yoo-hoo was a big thing with them. You know what Yoo-hoo is? You have Yoo-hoo there in Australia?
Yeah, that's a delivery service.
No, that's a drink. It's a chocolate drink.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, sorry.
It's a chocolate drink, and it's made famous by Yogi Berra. He played with the Yankees. He would say "Mihi for you." Johnny was a big Yankee fan, but he liked the drink. It's like a skim milk chocolate drink. But the funny thing about that is, on the ride, so I get his calls from Europe. The promoter would call me up. They say, "What is this Yoo-hoo? What is Yoo-hoo?" I said, "Don't, just get them some chocolate milk. They'll be happy with it."
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Getting back on the road with the Ramones, I mean, your book is in like 7 different languages. And then now, like you said, you have the bonus edition. And wow, that's totally amazing. I mean,
yeah, over the years, it came out in 2004. So I've had 3 different editions because things happen with the Ramones over the years. They get into the Hall of Fame. They get, the Grammy Music Awards,
Grammy Achievement Awards, Lifetime Awards.
That and street signs and people dying over the Ramones, the original book. Some of them are still alive, the originals. So it's, I had it updated a few times. The last book I put up 40 more pages from the original book, the bonus edition, the one with the red remote on it.
Right.
Available
Spencer,
worldwide.
you want to ask something?
What?
Did you want to
Spencer,
ask?
go ahead, ask
Oh
whatever you
yeah,
want.
I wanted. What interested me was after Tommy left the drumming for the group, Marky came in. Was there other drummers that were tried out for the group?
Not at that time. They knew Marky was around, and he came in pretty fast. It was good.
Yeah. Oh, good. Wow.
He's another one that was hanging around CBGBs. They knew him very well. Played with Richard Hell, and he was in Dust before that. And he was always hanging around, and they knew him very well. And he joined the group pretty fast. It was good. But it took him a little while to really develop the Ramones style because Tommy wasn't a drummer. He was a guitar player.
Right.
But he was a great musician. The thing was that he came in, he just wanted to produce the band and manage them. He didn't want to be in the band initially.
Right.
It was a 3-piece band. Actually, the first version of the band was Joey was on drums and Dee Dee singing and playing bass and Johnny on guitar. But Dee Dee was having a hard time playing and singing. And Tommy heard that Joey had a great voice, so he pulled Joey off the drums. So they had to look for drummers. And at that time, they were so raw, no drummers could understand what they were doing. It was just impossible. But Tommy would sit down and say, try play like this, play like this. They eventually said, well, you're doing a good job. Join the group. He joined the group. That's how he got into the group. He wasn't a drummer, but he developed that style. So when Marky came in, when Tommy left, it took him like a month so for Marky to develop. And Marky's a great drummer. I mean, he came
He
from
is
us and all those
amazing,
things.
amazing.
But it took him a
drummer.
little while because Tommy wasn't a drummer. He developed that Ramones drumming style. It took him a while to get in the groove there.
Interesting. Good
That's
story.
why, you know, initially when Richie left the band and Elvis came in, Clem Burke, he didn't have enough time to practice with the band enough. So he only played 2 shows with the group.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, Marky was sober and came back into the band at that time, so that was okay. And of course, Clem was in Blondie. He made a hell of a lot more money. But he still is in Blondie, by the way. You know. But he wanted to be in the Ramones. He was there for 2 shows. We
It's
couldn't
amazing.
call.
When you look back, as I said, this legacy that you're holding and you're carrying on, Monte, it's just unbelievable. I can't even fathom it. When you look back and look where you are now and look at all these accolades and the world loves the Ramones. I mean, it's just greatest place to be, isn't it? But then on the downside, they're not here. You know, that's...
Yeah, the originals. There's still 3 Ramones out there. Not the originals. It's C.J. Ramone, terrific. He's got some great albums out. There's Richie Ramone still out there, and of course Marky Ramone. Not the original, but there's still Ramones out there, and the people love it. They still want it. You know.
I just want to say the name the Ramones. As I said, that was a pseudonym for Paul McCartney. He used to book rooms as Paul Ramone.
Paul Ramone, yes.
There's an interesting group called War Dogs in Italy that I met and toured with Marky. When Marky went to Italy, the group toured with him. A very good group, by the way, called War Dogs. And those guys are really cool. And they're kind of like a Ramones tribute band, right?
Yeah, it's a Ramones tribute band. You're right.
Yeah, you were on stage, right? You were on stage with them, right?
Oh, no, I was on stage. I did a few book signings in Italy. My book came out in Italian, and they played a few of the book signing shows and stuff. Sandro is a great the guitar player for the band.
Yeah,
and
Sandro.
They're terrific Ramones cover band, and they're great.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They're really good.
And John Holmeston did a cover, like single cover for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
Amazing. And look at all the books that have come out, as I said, on the Ramones, apart from your own as well. I mean, like, I go to a library here and I've seen books on punk, and the Ramones always feature. It blows my mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of books out there. A lot of books. Everybody wrote a book, you know.
And also documentaries, right, Monte?
Yeah, end of the century, and Mandy Stein did one about the 30th anniversary of the Ramones. Mandy Stein was Seymour's daughter. She's a good filmmaker. Yeah. And now I think they're going to be a film about Mickey Lee's book, I Slept with Joey Ramone. Played,
really?
I got a few texts, as I said, but this one's a good one. Charles Rosenet, I'm so glad I tuned in. I was afraid it aired 24 hours ago.
Very good, very good.
Yay, Charles, he's cool.
You should be sedated.
I'll tell you something about the Ramones. They played so fast, right, Monte? I mean, they were really a fast playing group, right?
Yeah, and they got faster over the years. Richie was. I was talking to Richie the other day. He said they sped up even more with him playing. I mean, they played short songs and fast. They did everything fast. They photo session fast. They ate fast, and that's one of the problems we had with the End of the Century album with Phil Spector. He was great, terrific producer, but he was very slow. And they hated that. They were going crazy. He would just go on and on with one chord and over again. They were just he was driving them crazy. But that's his style. But they didn't realize it at the time. They wanted to work with him, but he was a bit. I have some good stories about him and his guns and stuff, and then in the studio and stuff like that, and holding us hostage in his house and stuff like that.
The Phil Spector thing, that was a trip.
Poor guy, he went up the river and he died up in the prison there. It's unfortunate, Brilliant producer.
Now, Monte, I've got to ask you, you obviously know of some future Ramones projects coming up or anything great that's coming up. Is there another documentary, or are they going to package another greatest hits of the Ramones? I got all the greatest hits of the Ramones.
Well, they're putting out all the box sets of each album. I think they did the first 4 albums in box sets, which are very good, very extensive. Good friend of mine and producer, and Ed Stasium's involved in that. Terrific producer and guitar player, and worked with the Ramones over the years.
And Rhino Records put out a reissue of It's Alive, I believe.
Yeah, and you never know. And as I said, there's a movie coming. Pete Davidson from Saturday Night Live, I think, is going to play Joey.
Oh,
That
really?
should be interesting. I don't know. We'll see how that
Right.
works out. And there was
Wow.
a movie, CBGB's movie, out a while ago, but the Ramones weren't very well portrayed in that movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, Monte, can I ask you, what is your favorite song of the Ramones? Do you have one?
Oh, God.
Yes,
All right.
yes. This is very good because it's difficult, with all the albums out there, 13, 14
Yeah.
studio albums and all that. End of the Century, the Phil Spector album, and the song is called All the Way. Anybody familiar with that song? Spencer probably is.
Yeah,
right?
you're in it. Aren't you in one of the
Yeah, they
songs?
wrote me into the song.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Monty's driving me
What did they say
crazy.
about you?
It's
Huh?
good. Monty. It goes. Monty's driving me crazy. It's like being in the Navy. Joey wrote me into the song. That's my favorite Ramones song, of course.
I love
And
it.
and my favorite is My Brain Is Upside Down, which was the changed title, right, Monty? Of,
The brain's hanging upside down,
yeah,
but they
that's
changed
my
from
favorite.
Bonzo
Yeah.
Goes to Bitburg because
Yeah, I love that. I love
that was about Ronald Reagan going to the German cemetery, and Johnny loved Ronald Reagan. He agreed to do the song, but he made them change the title to My Brain Is Hanging Upside Down instead of Bonzo Goes to Bitburg. I mean, Bonzo was a movie that Ronald Reagan was in about him and a chimpanzee or something.
Right.
So
Now, you were there at the Berlin Wall, right? That must have been
we
something.
were there before the wall came down, during the wall was coming down, and after the wall came down. It was crazy. It was unbelievable. In fact, when the wall was coming down, the promoter went to the hardware store, bought us like picks and chisels, and so we went to the wall and we were, picking away. I'm telling you, that wall is very hard. So I got pieces of the wall. I got pieces of the wall, in my house.
Really? How'd you get it on?
Wow.
How'd you get it on the plane and all that?
No,
I mean, how
little
big is
pieces, little chunks of it. I mean, as I said, it was very
Oh.
hard. The very
Okay.
hard wall. We just got little pieces of it, and there was holes in the wall. And the guards were walking. The East German guards were walking and selling the stuff through the wall. Like CJ bought a belt buckle from the East German guard, but like a year before that, you couldn't get within 100 yards of the wall. They would point machine guns at you. It was really scary.
Wow.
It was really scary. And driving into Berlin, you had to take one path, and you got in there. You couldn't defend. The wall was all around, and guards was all around. And then we were there. The wall came down, and a year later, the wall's gone. It was like amazing, incredible.
Mhm.
Tell us about Danny Fields because he's very famous in music. He managed the Ramones. I worked with Danny and Linda Stein. Tell us about Danny.
Well, the original managers of the group was Danny Stein and Danny Fields and Linda Stein. Linda Stein was Seymour's wife. They were the original managers. Of course, Danny's a rock legend. He was wrote for edited Rock Scene magazine, and he had something to do with the Doors, and he signed Iggy, and goes way,
Monster.
amazing, big influence in the music scene. And initially in the early years, Tommy knew that, and so he kept on bugging Danny to come down and see the band. But initially, Danny thought it was some sort of like a Mexican band or something. Seriously, that's what he said.
I didn't know that.
Because of the name Ramones, he didn't. Nobody knew anything about the band at the time. But Tommy knew he was a big influence in the music scene. He wanted to get him down to one of the showcases to see the band. And a few times, Danny said, "I'm not going to go to this band." And I said, "They're a Mexican band. The Ramones. What is this?" So he finally came down. He loved the band. Loved the band. They just fell in love with the band immediately. And he was huge, influence in supporting the band and buying them the original equipment and stuff like that. And of course, Linda with the connection with Seymour was great. They were terrific.
And also, Danny has a book out on the Ramones, which was done in England and also in the United States, which I have a copy of. It's an incredible photographic book.
Yeah. Photographic book of all the different Ramones. He's also a great photographer too.
Yeah, he was definitely.
There's a fantastic pink book. I don't know the name. It's got everyone from CBGBs.
Wow.
I saw it the other day. It's Pink on Punk. It was basically catches your eye. I'm sorry I didn't buy it. I regret it. I thought they'd have 2-3 copies. It's all gone. People love punk.
They do. There's a lot of punk books out. Plastic. Monte could tell you. There's so many punk books out. I have doing a radio show. I got a lot of these books. They come from all over, but there's a lot of stuff on punk 45s. There's a book on CBGBs, the era of that with punk. A photographic book that I have is phenomenal. There's so many books on punk. You got it right. I mean, punk is such a hot ticket era.
You got to get the punk book by John Holmstrom. It's called Punk.
Yeah, that's right. John Holmstrom.
Because his magazine was Punk magazine.
That's a story in itself about Punk magazine, right, Monte?
But also got to say, Monte, they got to go out and buy the latest edition. As you said, it's not this one of On the Road with the Ramones. But I tell you what, that cover
that's the one.
Fantastic. Tell me a little bit about that one.
That is the one.
That's the one. That's the one. The bonus edition with the red Ramones on top there. That's the one. If you look carefully now, you see Johnny's wearing a Yankees T-shirt there. Joey's reading Punk magazine because John Holmstrom did the cover. There's the pinhead back there with the Gabba Gabba head sign, Gabba Gabba Hey sign. And there, look in the back, there's CBGBs. We're leaving New York from CBGBs, a little sign CBGBs. And actually, there's Yoo-Hoo bottles flying off with the instruments and stuff. And of course, down the sign is 2,263 miles to go. You know what that means, of course, right? Everybody knows what that is, right? 2,263 miles to go.
I've seen a sign in Maryland or something once.
No,
when I'm going cross country, that's not the same.
That's how many shows. That's how many shows they played.
Oh, okay.
Spencer, I got to say, Spencer, I love that album. Show me that album of the outline of the caricature of the Ramones. I love that one with their sneakers. That one is just fantastic.
Road to Ruin.
Yeah, I love that. Can you just put that? And I love the color being the black in the back there.
Yeah, and also the first printed edition, wherever the gray was on this album cover, was silver. So they actually printed a fifth color silver, which is a collectible, the first printing of the album.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah,
that's gorgeous. I love
Danny Field's photograph on the back, which I think he's such a great, like Monte said, great photographer.
Oh yeah. That was taken in Poughkeepsie, a club called The Chance, a backstage stairway there. A good club in Poughkeepsie.
Oh, wait a minute. Tell us about Rock and Roll High School, Monte, the movie.
Oh, that was terrific. I'm in that. I'm in the I have a cameo appearance in the movie there. Yeah. Are you familiar with the movie, guys?
Yeah, of course. I've seen the movie. Yeah. Tell me what part you play.
When they're singing the song, I Just Want to Have Something to Do. They're in a pink Cadillac. They pull up to the theater. I walk across and open the door. That's me. You can see me walking across. I shake the hands of the manager, and then I walk behind them, talking to them. You can see me talking to the manager. I'm playing like the promoter.
Oh, wow.
Talking to the manager as they sing the whole song. You can see me in the background. And there's another quick scene in the movie there. There's one of the hall monitors chasing somebody backstage, and that's a quick shot of me back there. But that was terrific playing, being in a movie like that. It was a great movie. Became a cult movie, like
it did,
picture show,
Right, exactly.
It became a classic. But Monte, I want to ask you now, right? You spent your life with the Ramones. Can you tell me something that no one knows about? You've done so many interviews. Is there anything you can tell us on this show about the Ramones you haven't told anybody? Can you do that?
You know how many interviews I've done? I think I've told it all, basically.
There must be something that you know that you haven't told anybody.
Wow. That's Harvey.
You're putting me on a spot here. I don't know. Really, it's crazy. By the way, Alan Arkish was the director of Rock and Roll High School. Great director, terrific person.
And I did the 45 sleeve for that Rock and Roll High School song, so that was pretty cool. I really liked doing that.
Spencer, do you have the Adios Amigos album there?
You know what? I don't, but that's Marcus Stabi. Didn't he do the cover? Marcus
did the cover. And if you look at the back cover of that, I'm on the back cover of that album.
That's a hard one. I think it's rare. It's kind of rare, Monte.
What, Adios Amigos? No.
It isn't? Because I tried finding it, and Marcus Stabi told me it's a rare album. I don't know.
No, Adios Amigos is the last Ramones album out there.
Yeah.
Monte, I've got to ask you, were you there when they were writing songs? Like, in other words, did they come up with something in the bus and you said, what are you doing, guys? And they go, we're doing a song, and they played it to you and said, what do you think?
No, they were pretty quiet in the band. They usually just listened to Walkmans, or Johnny was listening to a transistor radio with the earplug, listening to the Yankees game. They're very quiet. They did all their writing either in the hotel rooms or in their house or in the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I've got to say, this has been a fascinating show. And I mean, you know what? We talk about rock and roll history, but they'll be watching this for years and years and years, this interview. And as I said, the legacy that you got, Monte, I take my hat off to you, what you've done, your place in the band and rock and roll history. And as I said, yourself too, Spencer, doing the covers there. I mean, it's just totally amazing. And fans out there, I just want to say, you got no idea that the love they got for the Ramones and yourself, Monte, too. And it's really great that you've come out to Australia. And I hope to see you in Australia soon. And if you do, we'll catch up, I promise.
Yeah, you know, I got to tell you something. In the beginning, as Monte, I think, could support this, we didn't know where they were going. We didn't know how popular they would be. Monte, of course, believed in them. I believed them. But, you know, people, you didn't realize where they were. And all of a sudden, later in life, they become this iconic group, right, Monte? And they get they get what they're supposed to get. So I think it's really wonderful, the whole story of that group.
I think the legacy of the Ramones was that they would play everywhere early, you know, all the cities before the other groups come in, and all these kids would see them.
Yeah.
And they weren't playing anything at the time, you know, it's like Emerson, Lake and Palmer around, and the people, all these groups where you had to be like an amazing musician. So they came around and they played, what they did was simple stuff, good songs, simple, easy to do. And all these kids saw that and said, we can do this too. And all these groups formed when they saw the band. There was one time we were in Ohio and these kids came up, hey, we're Metallica. We love you guys. We're Metallica. They were nobody at the time.
Yeah.
And U2, Bono, he wrote the song "The Miracle of Joey Ramone." Holy mackerel! Eddie Vedder, the Pearl Jam, loved the band. All these big groups loved them. In fact, 1996 we did the Lollapalooza tour, so it was headlining Metallica, Soundgarden, Rancid, Ramones.
Wow! Heavy.
So I put the Ramones on stage. I'm standing there and looking. All of a sudden, on the side of the stage, there's all the groups: Metallica, Soundgarden, Rancid.
Right.
They're all there, big fans. They became big friends with the group. So the legacy of the band is kind of like Johnny Appleseed, who went around planting apples all over the place. They went around to all these places around the world, small clubs, and kids saw them and said, if they can do that, we can do that. That was the beauty of legacy of the Ramones.
Yeah.
Even when they went to England in 76 and 77, the groups, the Clash and the Sex Pistols, wouldn't you say that they the Ramones really influenced their sound?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, later years, Joe Strummer became a good friend of Johnny. In fact, in my book, there's a quote by Joe Strummer, and there's a little paragraph where he writes about them. It's a really nice little writing he did there, and it's a shame he's gone. But yeah, they all were heavily influenced by the Ramones.
Right.
You know, it was that period, and they were there, and as I said, they became the leaders, first punk band. I mean, you know, after this interview, I'll be going watching TV and watching the documentaries on the Ramones. I mean, you're right into it because you just love the band.
Yep.
Well, it's been such an honor to interview with both of you, and I certainly also look forward to interviewing Spencer, Drate, and Judith as well in an upcoming show. So
looking forward to that. We're looking forward to that with you guys. Yeah.
Monte, I'm going to just ask you a last question before we wrap it up. Now, when you look back on the Ramones, if you had to make a summation of that, I'm being honest, right? When you look back on history, what have you got to tell the fans about the Ramones? That in future generations, you want them to remember the Ramones. Just tell us.
Well, it's my previous statement about the legacy of the Ramones. That kind of sums it up. But you don't have to be a great musician on guitar, drums. Just get a good song, play your heart out, and then you can do it too, like the Ramones. That's what they did, and inspired a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I think another question. Have you got, Spencer?
Well, I was just going to say that it's important to believe what you do and keep that going. That's a very important thing. and then hopefully you attain what you wanted in your life. And always follow your heart, and always do what your heart says, and key to that in your life. And I think that's one thing that's very important for musicians or anybody.
Totally agree.
That's fantastic. That's wonderfully said. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Just want to thank you all for being on the show. It's been fantastic here. We've loved having you VIPs on the show. And as
We
I
love you
said,
guys.
Well,
thank you again, Monte.
Well,
Thank you again, Spencer. Thank you all for watching today. And as I said, all I need to say is the world loves the Ramones. Go out there, get Monte's book. Keep buying their records. Keep listening to fantastic punk music. And as I said, thanks everyone for watching today.
Well, good on you. Good on you. Good on you.
And gabba gabba hey, everybody.
All
Hey, ho, let's
right.
go.
1, 2, 3.